Changing up art is such an easy way to change up the mood and personality in your space, but it can get a little bit expensive. So today we are making high-end wall art that is super affordable. Hello, I'm Allie and welcome to my channel. I am very excited because it's another edition of my DIY wall art kind of series that's happening. It's not really a series, but it is something that I have done a couple times on the channel, and I'm very excited to tackle some more art today. I want to once again do some larger scale wall art because I feel like large art makes such a statement. And of course, all of these are completely customizable. So I don't want to keep talking right here. I feel like it's going on for way too long. So let's get started with the first project. And this first project is going to require a canvas. This is a 16 by 20 inch canvas. And I'm going to do something fun, textural with this. And that's going to require something that I should have had already here. That's going to require macrame cord. We're going to use some of this for the project. Definitely don't need as much as I have right here. I started by dividing the canvas into two sections. The top would be 2/3 and then a bottom third that I left a little bit smaller. And then I'm going in with some hot glue and that macrame cord to create this kind of endless rectangle type pattern. You can also see that I marked the center there to help guide me as I did this. And I also found that you got the best look by placing the macrame cord a little bit closer together in the narrower parts of the rectangle, and then a little bit further apart on the wider ends of the rectangle. So you can kind of see what I'm doing right here. Now for this project, I am pulling inspiration from this photo I saw right here on Pinterest. I loved that art piece and I wanted to do something and kind of make it my own, so this is what I've come up with. And when I was done with that top rectangle, I kind of just left that tail there. You will see what we're doing with it in a little bit. Then I repeated that same process with the bottom section. However, I did start the tail opposite of how I started the tail on the bigger section. And I just wrapped that all the way around until I filled in this bottom third. Then to complete the piece into making it almost look like I did this entire thing with one endless piece of string, I took the two tails and I matched them up on the side right here, and it worked out really well. I think this is just a small little detail that I didn't intentionally think I was going to end up with, but I think it really elevates the look of the piece. All of the string is applied to the canvas. I am really loving the pattern, but of course, this doesn't look very cute at this point. So to mesh everything together on the canvas, I'm going to use a combination of some tissue paper and some Mod Podge to add a layer over the entire thing just to smooth things out and add just an additional level of texture. I really think this is going to make all of the difference for this piece. Now when adding that tissue paper with the Mod Podge, I did find it took a little bit of trial and error until I figured out the best way to apply it, because there was all of those textured areas from the rope. And I found what worked best was putting the glue down onto the canvas and onto the rope, and then placing the tissue paper sheet by working it in, starting at the center of the tissue paper piece, kind of pushing it around these center rope pieces, shaping it over top of the rope, and then kind of pushing it down to the surface of the canvas again, and then repeating that until we got all of the rope pieces covered with my little piece of tissue paper. And I also did find that one coat of the tissue paper was definitely not enough. You were still seeing a lot of that rope and a lot of areas where the tissue paper kind of bent or ripped or tore in a couple spots. So going in with another layer of tissue paper after that first one was applied really made the difference. And finally, once the Mod Podge was dry, I painted the entire canvas with an off-white color, and as you'll see in the reveal clips, I decided to go in with a slightly darker off-white color for that little bottom section, just to add a little something, but you could definitely keep it all a solid piece. Whenever I do a wall art video, something I love including is some sort of textural piece, because wall art doesn't have to be a canvas, it doesn't have to be a frame, it could be something a little more unique than that. So I picked up a very inexpensive item that you can find in a lot of places, and that is this rug. This is an accent rug. I got it from Target for $10. What I love about this rug is the blue and the cream color, how they work together. It has a nice geometric print, and it matches with my home decor, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Target does have a couple other $10 inexpensive rugs you can pick from. You could also check Five Below if you have that in your area, Walmart, Big Lots, the dollar store. I'm sure you can find a rug, or hey, even the thrift store, or a rug that you just don't want on the floor anymore. You can find something like this so expensive, and it's great fabric to create a wall tapestry. I'm using the wood stain Early American by Varathane. This is their fast dry stain, so it only took an hour for it to dry. However, I did let it go overnight. Now that my dowel is dry, I still want this to have very much like a rug look for this tapestry. So what I'm gonna do is fold this over at about this spot right here. That way we have kind of the complete triangle pattern still going on. Now to make this removable, I have a couple brass looking finishing nails, and that is what I'm going to use to hold this onto the dowel. I grabbed 4. I think 2 might look a little cuter, but we're gonna see what it requires as we work on this. Once I had those brass nails in place, I flipped the entire tapestry over and then used some tiny little nail tacks like this and pounded those in around the back. I think I used maybe about 6. And what I also love so much about this piece is because I only used nails to attach the rug to the dowel rod. All of it can be removed, and this rug can become a floor rug once again once I'm tired of using this on my wall. And as an extra temporary touch, I used some washable fabric glue. Basically, if I throw it in the wash or add a little water, this will completely dissolve and detach. And I used that to glue down some cream colored tassels that match the rug. I just thought this would be a nice little feature. For this next art piece, I wanted to create a faux watercolor abstract landscape. That was a lot of words, but I am pulling inspiration from these images right here. These are high-end art pieces that are, of course, done by an artist or a print from an artist. But I think this is easily replicatable. I think it's something I've always wanted to try. So in front of me, I have my watercolor paper, and I have worked with watercolor on the channel before, but I wanted to do something that's maybe a little more accessible if you don't have watercolors in your craft supply stash, and that is just using some acrylic paints. I'm pretty certain this is going to work out, and I am going to just walk you through the process of creating a super simple abstract looking landscape. I started by drawing the horizon line on my watercolor paper, which is 2/3 down from the top. And to make the sky, I first wet the watercolor paper with just plain water and started adding in a very pale off-white tone that's a little gray, a little beigey, to create the look of a sky with some clouds. I do apologize, it is kind of hard to see this step and how it picked up on the camera, but I just wanted to create a very pale sky that almost wasn't there or wasn't that noticeable. I wanted to create sort of a beachy scene with this, and what I did was take that paint, really diluted it with the water, and then just kind of started brushing it onto the paper until I got the look that I wanted. And I also layered it in areas where it got a little bit darker to create the illusion of depth in the scene that we're creating. Now I let that sky and shoreline completely dry, and then I'm going in and creating a very faint looking mountain in the background, which is almost the color of the sky and the color of the sand combined. I wanted this to be very, very light and almost just off in the distance like this. And I used the same technique I did for the beach, which was water down the paint and then apply it in the shape that I wanted onto the paper. Now, you definitely kind of jump around a little bit with watercolors or faux watercolor as we're doing here. So for the water on this beach scene, I did the same thing I did for the sky, which was first wet the water area first before going in with a watered down gray tone. And I wanted to do this method because it creates a nice flowier look to really mimic the look of water. Now here you can see me mixing up a kind of terracotta brown type color. However, I didn't realize I was rolling on this portion, so I stopped rolling and then rolled again, and I already had the mountains painted. But I painted these just like the really faint ones in the background. It was the exact same method. And as the final detail on this piece, instead of going in with the faux watercolor look, I'm just going in straight with this kind of medium darkish gray tone and painting a little line right here to create the foreground mountain line or something like this. But I didn't want this part to be watered down. I wanted it to be the straight acrylic paint right onto the paper. Now, my favorite part of this watercolor pad specifically is that it is tacked down onto the pad, then you have to remove it like so, and it's just great because then you don't have to worry about stretching the paper. I'll be sure to link this in the description box. And then as just an extra detail, I'm using this little paper cutter that I've had for years. I got it back in high school to create a decal edge around the edge on all four sides, which is basically like a faux torn look. But if you wanted to recreate this, you could obviously just rip the paper very carefully around the entire edge and it would create the same sort of look. And finally, it is time to assemble everything back together. Now, because my frame is a little bit larger than my art piece here, I'm using some duck cloth canvas to create the mat or the backing. You could obviously use a traditional mat for this if your frame comes with one. But first, I laid down my watercolor piece. I stuck a couple little adhesive things onto the back of it to hold it into place once I put down the fabric. Then I added all the rest of the inner frame pieces and hung it up on the wall. I absolutely love how all three of these pieces turn out. I just think they could be so versatile for any sort of space with any colors or style that you want to do. And if you want to see even more wall art ideas, I suggest you check out this video right here, or you could check out the one underneath it if you want to watch something else. That's everything I have for you today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!